You stayed quiet, and they called it guilt. You kept moving forward, and they called it arrogance. You refused to fight back, and they called it weakness. But here is what they never prepared for. Chosen one, the most powerful move you ever made was the one they could not see. And it is about to change everything they thought they knew. Imagine this with me for a moment. You are walking your path, building something real, something they could not replicate no matter how hard they tried. No shortcuts, no schemes, just focus, faith, and a quiet kind of fire that never needed an audience. And while you were doing that, in corners you never even entered, a group of people decided to make you their full-time occupation. They watched your moves. They dissected your words. They searched through everything you had ever shared, looking for something they could use against you. And when they could not find what they needed, they manufactured it. They took the version of you that lived only inside their own fear, dressed it up in language that sounded credible, and handed it to everyone willing to listen. That is what you have been carrying. Chosen one, not just unfair words, a constructed lie, built with intention, spread with purpose, designed to reach you before you even had a chance to speak. But here is the truth. Your soul already knows. Everything they sent out has already begun its return journey. Not because you asked for it, but because the universe does not forget what was done in darkness. And what has been done in darkness is already being brought to light. Stay with me, chosen one, because what you are about to hear is not just a message. It is a confirmation that you were right to hold on. A confirmation that your silence was never your weakness. A confirmation that the season you endured was always the preparation, not the ending. Before we go any further, I want to stop for just a moment. If these words have already stirred something real inside you, something you have been carrying alone for a long time, please know that this message did not find you by chance. And if you want to help it find someone else who needs it just as much as you did, there is a simple and meaningful way to do that. The link to buy me a coffee is in the description below this video and in the pinned comment. When you give through that link, even something small, you are not just supporting a voice on a screen. You are helping this truth reach someone who is sitting in their own silence right now, confused, hurting, wondering if they are wrong to keep believing in themselves. Your generosity does not disappear into the air. Chosen one, it multiplies. It reaches rooms you will never see and touches hearts you will never know. Check the description or the pinned comment for the link. And thank you truly. And chosen one, if no one has told you yet to hit like and subscribe, let me be the first. Your support keeps this truth alive and helps the next soul find it when they need it most. Hit the like button, subscribe now, and let us begin. Number 1. They did not just talk about you. They declared a war they never told you was happening. Let us name this for what it actually was. What was done to your reputation was not idle gossip between bored people. It was coordinated. It was intentional. It was sustained over time by people who made sure their versions of the story aligned before passing them on. That is not gossip. Chosen one. That is character assassination dressed in everyday language. And the most painful part is that it was disguised as concern. They framed their lies as warnings they were generously offering to others, as if they were doing the world a favor by exposing who you really were. Except that who you really are is nothing like what they described, and somewhere inside them, they knew that. The version of you they were spreading was not the real you. It was the version of you that made sense of their fear. Because here is the truth that cuts through everything. Chosen one, people who are at peace with themselves, do not spend their energy destroying others. What they did to you was never really about you. It was about the mirror you held up without even knowing it. You showed up unbothered, growing, moving in a direction that exposed the contrast between where you were going and where they had chosen to stay. They could not dim your light. So they tried to convince everyone around you that the light was an illusion. But a real light cannot be argued out of existence. And every single lie they told revealed far more about the emptiness inside them than it ever said about you. The war they declared was not won the moment they started it. It was lost. They just did not know it yet. Number 2, your silence was not surrender. It was the most precise decision you ever made. You did not defend yourself. You did not run around trying to correct the record. You did not post, explain, or call meetings to make sure the right version of the story was circulating. And some people read that as confirmation that the lies were true. But the ones who were watching with clear eyes saw something entirely different. They saw someone who did not need the noise to know who they were. Chosen one, silence is only a problem when you have something to hide. When you have nothing to hide, silence is a statement. In the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verses 5 and 6, it is written, "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday." You did not need to clear your own name. The light was already doing it steadily, day by day. And here is the irony they never prepared for. The longer you stayed silent, the louder they had to become, because your silence forced them to keep filling the space. And the more space they tried to fill, the more obvious it became that they were working very hard to maintain a story that could not hold its own weight. Your calm was not passivity. Your calm was proof that what they were saying had no roots in anything real. False accusations, met with a spirit that knows its own truth, have nowhere to land. They found no ground in you, and that drove them to a place they could not recover from. Number 3, they needed a villain. They chose you without your permission. They did not just lie about something you did. They invented a version of you from the ground up. They looked at your words and twisted them. They looked at your choices and assigned intentions you never had. And when nothing they found was enough to make the case, they filled in the gaps with imagination. That is the moment this crossed a line. Chosen one, because this was no longer about something you had done. This was about something they needed you to have done. Their story had a shape, and they needed a figure to fit inside that shape. They chose you, not because you were guilty, because your light was visible enough to make a believable target. But the people who actually knew you were watching the whole time. People who had seen you in your ordinary moments, who had watched how you treated others when there was nothing to be gained. Those people did not recognize the character being described, and that quiet recognition, that sense that something about this story does not match the person I know. That was the seed of the unraveling. A lie built on nothing real cannot survive contact with the people who have experienced the truth. Number 4, they needed you to collapse. Your refusal to collapse broke something in them instead. Every move in their campaign was designed to produce one outcome. A reaction from you, not just any reaction. A visible, public, emotional breakdown that would prove the story they had been telling. Because the moment you became defensive or desperate, they would have pointed to it and said exactly what they had planned to say. See, this is who they really are. But you did not give them that moment. You kept building. You kept showing up with your head level and your hands occupied with something real. You kept glowing in that steady, quiet way that unsettled them far more than any confrontation ever could. What most people do not understand about people who run these kinds of campaigns is that they have no plan for your continued existence. Their strategy depends entirely on your collapse, happening within a predictable timeline. If you do not collapse, the whole structure starts to unravel. Because they have to keep feeding the story, keep escalating, keep finding new ways to make the narrative feel urgent. And that is enormous work to sustain when the subject of the story refuses to become the person being described. Every single day you stayed standing was a day they spent their energy on something quietly costing them everything. Their time, their credibility, their relationships with the very people they recruited to stand against you. Because those people were beginning to ask a question that had no comfortable answer. If this person is truly as dangerous as we have been told, why does nothing ever surface? Those questions did not come from anything you said. They came from who you are and who you are. Chosen One has been speaking clearly the entire time. Number 5. Gaslighting only works until the moment you stop agreeing with it. They tried to make you doubt your own mind, moments when you were told that what you clearly remembered did not happen. Moments when your tone was described back to you in a way that bore no resemblance to how you actually spoke. Moments when you walked away from a conversation feeling confused about something you had been completely clear about before it started. That is a deliberate strategy, Chosen One. Gaslighting does not need physical force. It just needs repetition. Say the same distorted version of reality enough times, with enough calm certainty, and the person receiving it will eventually begin to question their own memory. When that happens, control becomes effortless. You do not need to cage someone who has learned to doubt every signal their own mind sends. But something happened in you. At some point, you stopped accepting the version of reality you were being handed. You went back to what you knew. You sat with yourself in quiet, and you trusted what you found there. That single act was the turning point, because a person who trusts their own truth cannot be gaslit. You can present them with 100 distorted versions of what happened, but they will always find their way back to what was real. You found your way back, Chosen One, and the moment you did, the most powerful mechanism they ever used against you stopped working. Number 6. The people who believed them are beginning to wake up, and nothing can stop it now. Something is shifting in the atmosphere around you. It is subtle still, but it is real. The people who were once convinced by the version of you that was handed to them are starting to notice things. A detail in the story that does not quite fit when they think about it quietly. A reaction from the storyteller that seems too large for what it was supposedly about. A pattern in how the narrative shifts depending on who is in the room. And in those quiet moments, a thought is beginning to form. A thought they have not said out loud yet. What if I was only given one side of this? That thought, Chosen One, is the most dangerous thing in the world to everything they built. Because their entire structure depends on the sustained belief of others. Remove that belief, and the structure has no foundation. You did not have to go out and change anyone's mind. You simply kept being who you are. And who you are has been the most effective counter-argument in existence. Every day you showed up as the person those around you actually know. You were quietly doing the work that no defense ever could. The people who truly see you are seeing you more clearly now than they have in a long time. And the ones who were on the edge of believing the story are stepping back from it. Not because you asked them to, because the story stopped adding up. If this message is reaching you in a moment when you truly needed it, I want to ask you to do something. Think about someone in your life who is in their own silent season right now. Share this with them. And if you want to help reach the stranger who has no one to share it with them, consider supporting this work. The link to buy me a coffee is in the description below and in the pinned comment. As it says in Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 25, A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. What you send out into the world comes back. That is not a promise made lightly. It is a law written into the fabric of how the universe moves. Check the description or the pinned comment for the link. And now, chosen one, let us go deeper, because there is more. Number 7. Their story kept changing, and the people closest to them noticed. A lie is exhausting to maintain. The truth just exists. You do not have to track it. You do not have to manage it. But a lie requires constant supervision. You have to remember who heard which version. You have to make sure the timeline is consistent across every different telling. And you have to do all of that while managing your own guilt and your own awareness that somewhere underneath the performance. You know what you did. That is an enormous weight to carry. And eventually, people under that kind of weight start to slip. Details shift, timelines get fuzzy, and the people who were told the story start comparing notes with each other quietly. In conversations the storyteller never heard. Saying things like, "You told me it happened this way, but she told me something different. Those cannot both be right." They started asking the question that no manipulator ever wants their followers to ask. Does this story actually hold together when we look at it closely? The answer, chosen one, was no. And that answer is spreading, not because you planted it, because they made it inevitable the moment they chose deception as their foundation. A story built on sand cannot survive the questions of people who eventually look at the ground. Number 8. The truth does not need your help. It never did. I know how deeply every part of you wanted to set the record straight. I know how many times you sat with something prepared, a message, an explanation, a list of facts that you believed would make everything clear if you could just get the right people to see it. I know the frustration of watching something false about you circulate while the true version sat unread. But here is what the universe was doing in all of that. Chosen one, it was protecting you from a mistake. Because the moment you enter a war of narratives, you leave behind the only position that ever made you safe, the position of someone who has nothing to prove. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17, it is written, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." That is not poetry. That is a promise built into the structure of how reality works. Hidden things surface. Concealed things become visible. Not on your timeline. Not on their timeline. On the timeline of truth, which runs on a clock that none of us control. Your job was never to speed up that clock. Your job was to be worth the truth when it finally arrived. And you have been chosen one. Every day you chose integrity over argument. Every day you chose peace over provocation. You were becoming the kind of person whose truth, when it finally speaks, is undeniable. That person is you. And that truth is already speaking. Number 9. What they aimed at you has turned and is now aimed at them. They did not see it coming. What you send out returns, not always immediately, not always in the exact form it was sent, but with a consistency that leaves no room for doubt. What you put into the world makes its way back to you. The energy that was aimed at you was full of dishonesty and deliberate cruelty. It did not disappear after it was sent. It went out, completed its circuit, and began coming home. You may already be seeing the early signs of this. Chosen one things in their lives that seem to be unraveling in ways they cannot explain. Relationships quietly fracturing. Opportunities slipping through their hands. A growing unease they cannot pin to any single cause. That is not coincidence. That is consequence. Every false word spoken came with a cost they did not budget for. Every manipulation run came with a debt that does not negotiate. It does not care about their justifications. It does not care about the story they told themselves to make what they did feel necessary. It simply settles. And the settling, chosen one, is already underway. Number 10. The boomerang never missed. Not once. You did not curse them. You did not wish harm on the people who tried to bury you. You protected your energy instead. You guarded your peace. And the universe, which keeps accounts that no one can falsify, did the rest. Here is what most people misunderstand about the boomerang effect. It is not powered by your desire for justice. It is powered by their own choices. You did not set the mechanism in motion. They did. The moment they chose to build their campaign on dishonesty, they activated something, not a curse, a consequence. And now they are living inside it. The confusion when nothing goes the way it was supposed to. The paranoia that has made it difficult to trust even the people still beside them. The slow withdrawal of allies who are quietly stepping back because something does not feel right, and they cannot yet explain it. All of it is the sound of a boomerang completing its arc. You ran on something they could not sustain. Chosen one. Truth, peace, purpose. Those three things do not run out. They renew, they deepen, they compound. And while they burn through everything they had to fuel a campaign built on nothing real, you were building a life that speaks for itself, a future they cannot take from you. Number 11. Their campaign is collapsing from the inside, and the one who built it cannot stop what is already in motion. The machine is showing its cracks, because when you build a structure on manipulation, you are not just managing other people, you are managing yourself. You are managing the gap between what you tell others and what you know to be true. That kind of management is not sustainable. The people who stood beside them, the loyal ones who repeated the story on their behalf, are getting tired of waiting for the vindication that was supposed to come. They were told that you would eventually collapse under the weight of what you had supposedly done, but that moment never came. And now those same people are sitting with a question that changes everything. Was I used? Was I recruited into something that had nothing to do with truth and everything to do with someone else's fear? Once a person starts asking that question, the answer begins dismantling everything they were part of. The supporters are withdrawing. The energy is going quiet. And the person who set it all in motion is left standing inside a collapsing structure. No foundation, no credibility. No new story to replace the one that is already falling apart. What is not real cannot hold indefinitely, and what cannot hold is already falling. Number 12. Your silence became the clearest testimony anyone could have offered. Let me ask you something, chosen one. What would have happened if you had fought back? If you had matched every rumor with a rebuttal and enlisted your own allies and run your own campaign of exposure? The answer is something that is difficult to accept, but it is important. The moment you entered the war of narratives, you would have become part of the story instead of the proof that the story was wrong. Your reaction, no matter how justified, would have been used as the evidence they needed. They would have pointed to your emotion and said, "This is who they really are when the mask comes off." Your silence denied them that leverage. Your stillness made it impossible for them to use you against yourself. In the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, it says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." You were still, chosen one. And something much larger than any of this took up the fight. Not with anger, not with revenge, with time, with truth, and with the slow and inevitable light that falls on everything eventually. Every single day you stayed quiet and kept building. You were making a statement that no argument could match. and the people who were paying attention heard it louder than anything else in the room. Number 13. This was never your ending. This was always only the preparation for your beginning. I need you to hear this carefully, chosen one. Everything that happened, the lies, the isolation, the season of being misread and misrepresented to people you cared about, the loneliness of knowing the truth about yourself while watching others believe a version of you that does not exist. None of it was a punishment. All of it was preparation. The fire that came for your name did not destroy you because it was never capable of reaching what is real in you. It could only burn what was temporary, the connections that were not meant for your next chapter, the comfort that was keeping you smaller than your purpose required. The fire cleared what the future could not use, and what is left, what has survived everything they sent at you, is the most refined and ready version of you that has ever existed. Chosen one, there are doors opening for you right now, not in spite of what you went through, because of it. The kind of doors that only open for people who have proven, under real pressure, that they cannot be bought, broken, or redirected by the noise of other people's fear. Those doors open for the ones who stayed true when it cost them something. They open for you. The people who remained in your corner through this season, the ones who did not need proof. They had already seen enough of who you are. Those are not just your friends. They are your foundation. A circle that is smaller now, yes, but stronger. Cleaner in its loyalty. Real in a way the connections you lost could never have been. As it says in Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, chosen one, not the comfortable things, not the things that made sense. All things, including the hardest season you have ever walked through, including the nights when you did not know how to explain what was happening, including the moments when you almost believed the version of you they were describing might be true. Even those moments were working something in you, something that could not have been built any other way. The chapter they tried to write as your ending is the last chapter they will ever have a hand in. Every page from here forward belongs to someone who endured the storm, refused to become it, and emerged cleaner, clearer, and more purposeful than the storm ever anticipated. That is your story, and it is just beginning. Not with drama, not with revenge, with peace, with purpose, with the quiet and unshakable confidence of someone who knows exactly what they survived and has decided to make it mean something. Walk into what is waiting for you. Chosen one, it has been waiting a long time, and it is everything they told you that you would never have. Chosen one, if these words reached you in a place where real things live, not just at the surface of your thinking, but deep in the part of you that knows the truth even when it has had nowhere to put it, then this was not an accident. You were brought here. Drop the number 777 in the comments right now. Let every other chosen one who found this message know that they are not alone, that the ones who hold on are the ones who rise. Hit the like button if this reached something real in you. Subscribe to this channel so the next message finds you when you need it, and share this with someone who is in the middle of their own silent season right now. Someone who needs to hear that their silence is not losing. Their silence is loading. The war is over, chosen one, and you are still standing. That is not a small thing, that is everything. Your story is not finished. It is just finally, truly beginning.